do. Um, I decided to change a little bit and simplify it a bit. I think the scope of the work I wanted to do is too big
Broad. Yeah.
for the semester, and I don't have the econometric background
Yeah,
to really pull that off right now.
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a little bit different. You'll see it
Fine.
also
That's
when
exactly why we're going through stages. I don't expect you to do the same thing each stage.
okay.
Modify.
So can I leave the presentation like that, or do you want me
No,
to?
no, no, just send it like that. And then for the next round, you're gonna present it all, right? This was just your draft. Things have
Okay,
changed. It's okay. Just stick with it.
okay. Thank you, Professor.
So you can, when you write, your presentation can stay the same, but your writing can have the new thing.
Yeah, the reading is gonna have everything new.
Because what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? You're gonna just lie if you present, if you start writing what you're not gonna do. So, yeah. All right. Okay, so Kathy told me that she's not going to come, and Christopher's not coming, so it's just us. I have to figure out what to do with Victor because Victor doesn't have someone to evaluate because Jonathan left and someone to evaluate him. So I will have to. I'll just rescale your grade, Victor, if you know what I mean. I'll just remove the critique from your grade, and we'll figure out for next session what we're going to do. We have to put you in a group of two people and rotate. Sure. Victor, ¿me escucha?
Sí, ok, está bien.
Si hay preferencia para un grupo.
No, cualquiera.
Okay. So should I pick which group you're going with?
Ok.
Okay, let's see what you have, what you present, and then I'll decide. Okay, so let's begin with um with Carlos then.
The host
Yeah, yeah,
disabled attendees.
I know you
Yeah.
can have it now.
Oh, sorry. Um, okay. Is it visible?
Yes, nice. Mhm.
Okay. So, you all know me. My name is Carlos. I'm going to be talking about cash holdings and firm resilience. So, a little bit of introduction that's trying to compact my ideas, what I've read in just in one sentence. So, what I've read is that when there is global financial crisis, it'll test the firm's ability to survive these sudden liquidity shocks. I chose specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic, and from what I've read is many companies had funding constraints and suffered market volatility. So this research will examine whether the firms with higher cash holdings were more resilient and how that effect differed between developed and emerging economies over the 2019 and 2021 period. So the purpose, as it's sort of stated already, is I just want to make sure to check and determine if the pre-pandemic cash holdings strengthened the firm's financial resilience during the COVID-19 crisis, and whether this effect differed between developed and emerging economies. My research question directly is, how does the impact of cash holdings on firm resilience differ between developed and emerging economies during the COVID-19 period? Also, the last part, developed and emerging economies part, was a suggestion made by George. So he also gave me two recommendations as alternate questions. One of them is that multinational subsidiaries show greater resilience than local firms due to global cash flows. And does geographic diversification reduce the need for large cash reserves during crisis? So those are super interesting ideas that I've taken into consideration as well. So a few hypotheses that came from reading the literature, suggestions by George, and also my professor. So the first hypothesis is that firms with higher cash holdings will experience better financial resilience during the COVID-19 crisis. That's pretty standard. Um, like that's a very, how to say, una hipótesis bien obvia. Um, Second, the positive effect of cash holdings on resilience will be stronger in emerging economies than in developed ones. This hypothesis was inspired by George's suggestion. And also I found literature that could maybe support it, or at least talk about it. And lastly, in developed economies, the benefit of cash holdings will diminish after initial shock, as fiscal and monetary interventions will reduce liquidity problems. This hypothesis, I got inspired by a professor that told me that the COVID period was short because of intervention. So I thought that it'd be neat to add that hypothesis as well. On the theoretical framework, I think I'm going to skip to the summary of each, because when I was practicing my presentation, I took a long time just talking about this theoretical framework. So I did a summary for the theoretical framework part. So I found precautionary, financial, trade-off, agency, and institutional as my theoretical framework summary. So basically, the cash holdings will act as financial shield during crisis. The financial will be emerging market firm gains more from cash because limited credit access makes internal funds their main safety net. The trade-off is holding cash improves resilience but reduces efficiency. In the agency, excess cash may lead to inefficient behavior in developed markets. I'll talk a little bit more about that because I found a lot of literature on that. And in institutional, when government supports enters, and stable financial institutions reduce the marginal value of cash. And this might explain why its benefits might be stronger in emerging settings. I also have some literature talking about that too. Okay, so I'm going to spend a lot of time in the conceptual framework because that's basically how I visualize the idea. So basically, what I'm trying to do with this framework is show the main logic behind the study. The idea is that pre-pandemic cash holdings improves firms' resilience during COVID-19 shock by providing internal liquidity when external financing was limited. However, the strength of that relationship depends on the level of financial development and institutional quality. In emerging markets where credit systems are weaker, the benefit of cash should be stronger. I also control for factors like firm size, leverage, profitability, and industry effects that the idea is to isolate like the specific impact of cash holdings on resilience, not attribute it to other factors. The evidence that I found was in a paper by Bubar, Guyen, and Fan in 2021 on COVID-19 and corporate cash holdings. They evidenced that developing and developed markets finds that cash buffers had stronger positive impact on stock performance. Shen and Xu in 2022 show that financial development moderates the cash resilience link in developed economies, and that the marginal value of cash declines because the firms can just refinance externally, basically. And so on and so forth. I found a lot of evidence supporting that. So in summary, I'm just trying to illustrate how cash holdings enhance firm resilience during COVID-19, the strength of this relationship, which I think will be influenced by the level of financial development and institutional support. And let me see if I need to talk about, yeah, sure, I guess I can do that too. So the control variables I thought that they were standard based on the literature that I read, specifically Upler in 1999 and Bates. So I thought that it'd be neat to add it in the study as part of the conceptual framework. So I think that could be good. So some limitations that I thought about is that different papers define firm resilience in slightly different ways. Like some use stock performance, others use crash risk measures, and others just rely on accounting outcomes like profitability. So that could be a limitation, and I have to decide on what definition of resilience I mean. So the comparisons can be a little bit tricky. Data coverage is uneven, especially for emerging economies where firm level information is limited or delayed. And that would obviously restrict how precisely I can generalize the results globally. Third, there's a possibility of endogeneity, where firms that expected higher risk may have intentionally held more cash before the pandemic, like just by chance. So it's hard to separate that cost from just having foresight. Fourth, not all studies cover the same time frame. Like at least the papers that I had read, most end in 2021 and a few just extend to 2022. I guess this can affect the interpretation of post-crisis recovery as well. Finally, differences in model design. like which controls or fixed effects do the different studies that I read use, and that could probably lead to small variations in estimated effects. So even if I find like the general trend is consistent, so I have to take that into account. A few terms and definitions. Since I'm taking a long time, I'll just skip that. If people have doubts, I can just come back. So some key findings from the literature are that firms with larger pandemic cash buffers had smaller market value decline and faster recoveries. Firms with more cash showed lower stock price crash. So emerging market firms benefit more. And this study was done by Bubaker and Chen and Zhou. Leverage and profitability moderated outcomes, which is why I chose those controls. Diminishing returns in developed markets, which sort of supports my hypothesis by Chen and Zhou. So in summary, cash holdings just act as a financial insurance when its external financing is collapsed. Let's use quotations. So the study builds on those 15 empirical papers, and those papers analyze how cash holdings affected firms during the COVID-19 crisis. I would use a quantitative synthesis approach where I would combine the results and try to find like a general pattern between 2019 and 2021. And my main variable of interest would be like pre-pandemic cash holdings, and that would be measured as cash total to total assets, sorry. Firm resilience is captured through changes in stock returns, profitability, and crash risk indicators, such as the other studies have done. A key moderating factor would be the level of financial development, like distinguishing between emerging and developed countries, adding what George suggested. And hopefully this will help us see like how institutional strength shapes the value of liquidity. Basically, that's another interesting thought. So control variables like firm size, leverage, and profitability are included. And again, trying to isolate the unique effects of cash, like uniquely the effect of cash. And most of the studies that I read apply panel regressions or difference in difference methods. So I guess I could use the reported estimate as a basis for a cross comparison, just an idea. So for this project, like I said, the information comes from those peer-reviewed studies. And these papers relied on major financial databases like Compustat, Refinitiv, WorldScope, World Bank for macro indicators. So the synthesis that I would do would use those results. I guess I could also include raw data. I'm still like haven't decided specifically. So right now I would have to find a way to standardize like the variables between the studies, i.e. like cash ratios, resilient measures, market type. So that way I can like do an actual comparison across the studies. I would also categorize results by whether they come from developed or emerging economies, again, adding on what George suggested. I still have to do data cleaning and validation when I get all the data organized, and I still haven't done that. And then my plan is to use R, but obviously I'm open to using Excel as well as the class needs. So the models that just by reading all the papers that I think that are relevant or that I would use, would summarize the relationship between cash holdings and firm resilience. And that was tested already in some of the studies. So the model 1 would look at overall firm performance during COVID-19 to see whether firms with high pre-pandemic cash experienced smaller losses. Model 2 would focus on crash risk using measures like NCSQ and Duval to test whether cash buffers help reduce downside volatility. Model 3 just adds like financial development as the moderator. So it checks whether the benefit of cash is weaker in developed economies where firms have easier access to credit. So the interaction term just captures how cash interacted with COVID in the COVID period, and controls like size, leverage, profitability is just to make sure that whatever we're observing is really coming from liquidity and not from any other characteristics. So a few the data tools that I thought about using was R for regression and modeling, and just it's very easy for summarizing statistics. Excel. I saw that George used Power BI, so I thought for visualization it could be interesting. And outputs that I would expect, obviously descriptive statistics, correlation matrices, comparison of coefficients across the market groups, developing versus emergent, graphs and tables. So AI disclosure, I used AI to generate the template of the presentation. I gave it as input the outline of what I thought that the presentation should follow based on the document Professor Lombardi has on Moodle. And then it generated a lot of text, which I just discarded, and I started going slide by slide using the Excel sheet and the literature that I already have. Journals to publish, I found the Journal of Corporate Finance. The reason why I chose it is because it has rolling submissions. I'm going to be honest. It sort of aligns with what I'm trying to do because I copy pasted this from their webpage. Areas of interest include risk management, financial contracting, international finance. So I thought that it could align with what I'm trying to do. Some extra reviewers, two of them I cited in the literature, and I read papers from them as Rudiger Fallenbach, I'm probably not pronouncing that right, and Renee M. Stolz. So, and David J. Dennis focuses on financial policies and corporate cash holdings, which directly aligns with what I'm trying to do. So this would be like expert reviewers that I would choose. Here are their pages. A conference that I found online is the American Finance Association, and the date that I would have to attend would be January 3rd to 5th. I went to their webpage and they suggest months in advance to contact them about it and submit. And this is most of the bibliography that I cited during the presentation. I have more papers, but I try to condense in these important papers. And I'm done.
Very good, very good. I just wanted to ask, what is your variable COVID? Is that an indicator or what is that? The variable in your expression, the COVID one.
Oh, yeah, let me go back, sorry. Let me go back. Let me open my presentation again, my bad. Oh yeah, it's just I'm using that to have a period because I'm measuring a period. What changed during 2019, I said, up till 2021. So it's just a time, like you can see beta COVID underscore T. I'm just using as a from that period. It changes with time, basically.
Well, what is it though? What is it changing? What is it? What is it? What does it mean? I'm a little bit confused. COVID is.
Okay, so what I'm trying to, let me see. It's just maybe I did this wrong. Let me read my notes again, sorry.
It just it says COVID and I'm not sure. Is it like I'm not sure what it is. I can't even guess.
Maybe I did an oopsie here. I thought I'm just thinking of across time, but maybe I added in the wrong part.
If you need a time variable, I mean
I get.
You're talking about a time variable. Okay, so we're gonna call it COVID, the COVID time. But
I guess
19 is not COVID, 2020 is COVID, right? You said 19 to 21?
Yeah, that was my mistake, exactly.
But it's going to be a 0-1, or it's going to be, what would the values look like? Anyway, we can talk about it later. I don't want to delay, but anyway, so you agree. Let's look at that. Let me know what that is. So define your variables, like what the values are going to be in your presentation, or at least in your paper.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, George, let's come up.
Hey guys, Carlos, thank you for the presentation. I think your topic is very timely, particularly for me that I work in FEMA. I think this topic is very important. It's something we see a lot and we talk to applicants a lot about in preparedness. And what I told you this before, in Hurricane Maria, I was a data analyst in response to one of the maps we had in the GIS team was all the cash transactions and the visa transactions that were happening across the island, so that we could pinpoint where to send food and water in the areas where there was no movement of cash. We always say in finance, in accounting, we say cash is king. And for firms to have enough cash, enough liquidity in terms of in times of crises, it's really important. Not just in a pandemic, but it's something we saw in the 2007 financial crisis. I'm sorry, 2008. And in disaster areas, we see this more often. That's why we have programs to, give funding to the businesses, so to get them started and be able to buy stuff that they may need to start operating. So I think it's a very timely topic. I think I like the way you frame your thinking of your question. I also think that you successfully merge corporate finance into international business, which is something we had talked about. And like I said, it's a relevant topic right now. I think you had a strong theoretical grounding. It integrated the precautionary savings, financial constraints, and the agency trade-off theory. It connected financial strategy with institutional environments, which is a key theme in international business. I think you had a solid methodology design with a cross-country quantitative synthesis. You got to check what the professor said regarding the variable of the time. And in terms of, I had written here to make the visual conceptual framework, but you did it, and it was very nice, very good to see what the explanation of how you analyze the theories and conceptualize it. And for areas of improvement, I think you need to, like you mentioned, define resilience. Resilience is a word that is being used for many things. And in this particular sense, it could mean profitability, it could mean survival, market recovery, it could mean many things. So you need to be able to define that, and then how you're going to measure that, particularly for the firms. And also, you may need to expand the discussion on institutional quality metrics. I suggest some of the governance index. So the World Bank has some, IMF, that you might be able to look at. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. If in the future, you could compare this project with the 2008 global financial crisis to test the consistency of your model. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on the topic. And overall, I thought it was a really great presentation.
Thank you, George. I thought it was great too. I'm going to ask Carlos to shift gears and offer some critique of your presentation at this moment. Is he ready for that?
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Also, I literally just opened my document where I was working on the regression, and it's just a flag, but I won't take time. Maybe later I can discuss it again.
Okay.
Okay. So so my review, I guess, or critique is gonna be really informal because I did it not the same day that the presentation was given. I did it as the presentation was being developed. I don't know if that makes sense. But before since I was absent last Monday, and George had finished the presentation beforehand, I had seen it beforehand, and I gave some suggestions. So that's my review. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll be more formal. Yeah. So okay. So I thought that the research question was super good and super interesting. The main reason why I thought that it was so appealing to me or appealed to me is because it's testable. And coming from STEM, like that's one of the most important things that I've been taught in research specifically, that it's testable. By reading about your presentation, I saw that you had two dependent variables, which is renewable energy share and green FDI. In that part of the research question where you say bilateral agreement and environmental provisions, I thought that adding those two in the research question could add a lot of complexity. But again, that's just my opinion. Because when you talk about trade agreements, that means you add like the concept of policy work. That's just what I thought. So in case that you'd like to simplify it, then I would divide the question in two parts. One, do environmental provisions in bilateral trade agreements increase renewable energy investment or FDI inflows in the countries? And do such provisions lead to higher domestic renewable generation or consumption shares? That's just an idea that I had. Otherwise, the question is super, super good. And obviously, each question will have their own different data sets and control variables, so you could like have to research. And for the regression, I guess it could be complicated with your question, but I haven't given it a lot of thought yet. I should reread your presentation and submit something more formal on that. So I'll hold on that. And I saw data sources when you gave me the presentation last week. I started looking for data sources, and I thought that it was extremely easy to find. So you're super good with your research on that side. Okay, so some other random questions that I thought while viewing your presentation was these questions. Do countries that have environmental language in their treaties, could they already be greener or wealthier? Then the measurements, the environmental provisions seem very broad in that case. Maybe add a list of things that those provisions include could help focus. And there's another train of thought that I had. About how do renewable investments behave? Like, are they slow or are they very quick in how they happen? That's another that could have depending on the speed on how those renewable investment happen could affect your regression. I think. Let me see if I have more in my notes. Okay. Let me read. A few things that I thought thinking about questions. What if you link treaty design features to a specific sectors where there are investments in green? It could be interesting. Some features could be la cláusula en los subsidios, like transferencia de tecnología, environmental cooperation. That's something interesting. Another idea that I thought about was is to check if there's heterogeneity by income, like people with money or better said, members with money or members that that have less money. I thought that your research has a lot of potential to be publishable in journals. I thought that the idea is super original. The only recommendation that just popped up in my head would be to narrow down to just have one dependent variable, i.e. divide the question in two parts. And my whole take on everything was that basically environmental clauses in trade agreements would take you to tangible green investment outcomes. That's just what I absorbed from your presentation. That's like the summary. So that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carlos. So you guys are going to go through, and for next week, you're going to give me the critique, right? The document of critique. But today you're going to give me everything else, what you've done, your presentation, your draft, just those three parts. I mean, just follow the instructions. I hope those instructions were detailed enough. And I just wanted to see if you guys had any questions for me about what you had to submit tonight. Did anybody finish? George, you finished?
I finished, but I'm gonna resubmit the Excel with the data bank with the models because I didn't have the models.
Yeah, just write the models out. It's just to put them somewhere so that You show me you're ready to, that's how you're going to present them to me later with the
Okay.
data. So I can see the data.
Yeah, but you have all the data sets there. I had in different tabs, but all tabs have the
You
names
didn't
of,
merge them. Yeah.
yeah.
You know how to merge them? So do we,
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but I
you
need to
guys,
clean that
if you
picture.
guys want to, like a class, I mean, not a class, but if you want a session on merging, let me know. We can do that. We don't have to, we can do it outside of the class.
Okay.
Because next week I want to talk about different kinds of regressions, even though I'm having you do, multivariate. Some of you want to do panel. Um, we can work on setting that up. But mostly it's, we only have enough time to just clean the data up now. Merge and clean. And if you guys need any help with that, let me know. Downloading. So you've identified some databases, but you have to identify the variables you want, pull the data, merge them, and clean. What are you going to do with missing values?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was younger, like I did my first degree in statistics, and we always talked about imputation. I think it was George who brought it up, what we're going to put there. But in practice, well, what I see people do is they just delete. I mean, they just have huge number of observations, so they just drop. But sometimes you don't want to drop data. So to preserve it, you can put an average in there. You can put some sort of rationale to put a value in. But you have to explain all of that when you report. So anyway, so if anybody wants to do that, let me know, and we can arrange to look at that together. All right, so I'm gonna call Victor up to make his presentation now. And yeah, it's just 6:40, so that's good. And you guys, I'm gonna ask you guys to pay attention and maybe make some comments for Victor because he doesn't have an official body yet. So, well, this is a opportunity to get to know Victor's presentation. Okay, so or his topic. So Victor, you can come up next.
Vale, déjame subir la presentación.
Recording in progress.
Hola, Victor, ¿qué pasó?
Estoy intentando subir la presentación.
Víctor necesita ayuda,
Es que estoy intentando compartir
pero
la
como
pre-
es Zoom, debajo hay share o compartir.
Sí, Lady Share, déjame dar los settings. A ver, ahora sí.
Gracias, lo veo.
¿Se ve?
Sí, sí.
Ah, ok. Déjame entonces compartir acá. Ok, entonces mi presentación es sobre los factores que afectan las exportaciones reales de Puerto Rico, un análisis económico con enfoque en comercio internacional. El propósito es analizar el impacto de las variables económicas y logísticas sobre las exportaciones reales mensual de Puerto Rico, contribuyendo al entendimiento del entorno exportador desde una perspectiva cuántica o aplicada al comercio. La pregunta de investigación es cómo influyen los precios de los costos logísticos, la actividad económica local y los precios internacionales en el valor mensual de las exportaciones en Puerto Rico. La hipótesis sería que los costos de transporte y logística junto a la actividad económica local y los precios internacionales tienen un impacto significativo en las exportaciones reales mensuales de Puerto Rico, afectando su competitividad internacional. Estas estrategias sirven para formular políticas públicas, estrategias empresariales y competitividad exportadora. Aquí les comparto una de las variables que sería la de exportación de Puerto Rico a nivel histórico en años fiscales del 2006 al 2024. Como podemos ver, casi el 75% de las exportaciones se dirigen a los Estados Unidos, lo que, ¿verdad? Formaliza de cierta manera la dependencia a nivel del comercio exterior que tenemos con los Estados Unidos. El modelo de regresión, la variable dependiente sería las exportaciones. Voy a estar trabajando con el índice de precios de manufactura en las exportaciones que lo publica el Banco de la Reserva Federal. Voy a trabajar con el índice de actividad económica de Puerto Rico que lo publica el Banco de Desarrollo Económico y el índice de precios internacional que es el del BLS. Eh, el modelo de regresión va a tener como tal 235 observaciones. Sería desde el 1 de enero del 2006 al julio del 2025, que sería este año. Y aquí pueden ver las exportaciones, el índice de actividad económica, el índice de manufactura, la tarifa y el índice de precios al consumidor. La razón por qué añado el índice de precio al consumidor es porque voy a estar deflactando las exportaciones. En este caso tengo las exportaciones nominales y las exportaciones reales, que son las que voy a estar usando para los modelos de económetro. Con respecto a la variable del índice de actividad económica coincidente de Puerto Rico, es un indicador que se compone de cuatro variables, que es el número de empleados asalariados no agrícolas, la cantidad de consumo de energía, las ventas de cemento y el volumen de gasolina que paga arbitrios en el país. Con respecto a la segunda variable, sería el índice de precios de importación y exportación de los Estados Unidos, que es el índice mide los cambios de precios de bienes y servicios que se importan o se exportan en el país. Este refleja cómo varían los precios de esos productos con el tiempo y sirven para analizar tendencias comerciales, inflación y lo que sería la balanza comercial. La razón por la que utilizo este indicador es por la dependencia que tenemos con el comercio exterior en el caso de Puerto Rico. Y comparto un poco de información del índice de precios al consumidor, que es el que mide el promedio de precios de canastas de bienes y servicios representativas del consumo en los hogares, que es un indicador clave para analizar la inflación y el costo de vida en una economía. En este caso, este índice lo publica el Departamento del Trabajo aquí en Puerto Rico y es a nivel mensual. Voy a estar trabajando con un modelo de autorregresivo vectorial que permite analizar las relaciones dinámicas entre múltiples variables endógenas en una serie de tiempo. Es útil para estudiar cómo varía o cómo responde cambios a largo plazo. Permite realizar pruebas de causalidad, la prueba de Jason, el modelo de corrección de roles vectorial y el impulso y respuesta de las variables para lo que serían las exportaciones reales, el índice de precios en la exportación de manufactura, el índice de actividad económica y el International Price Program. El modelo sería de enero del 2006 a julio del 2025. Voy a estar seleccionando el número de rezago, estimar el modelo, diagnósticos como estabilidad, autocorrelación, normativa de roles y el análisis de resultados que permite verificar si una variable ayuda a predecir otra o evaluar algún efecto de shock en cada variable. Aquí yo estuve trabajando un poco con el modelo, que estuve revisando las relaciones a largo plazo, que sería la correlación, que en el paper voy a estar ¿verdad? Describiendo los resultados. Eh, lo próximo sería transformar las variables a logarítmicos para mejorar la estabilidad numérica y homogeneizar las escalas de las variables. La prueba de test permite una cointegración para utilizar o para determinar el número de relaciones de equilibrio a largo plazo que existen en conjunto de variables no estacionarias. Aquí yo estuve haciendo la prueba como tal. Tengo los residuos, estoy trabajando con el programa de R para determinar los resultados que estaré proveyendo en el paper. Después paso a un modelo de correlación de vectores, de errores vectorial, que es para capturar cómo las variables ajustan sus desviaciones del equilibrio. Analiza la dinámica tanto a corto plazo como a largo plazo. Bajo este modelo tengo que escoger lo que son el número de rezago. Según las proyecciones me dio que estaría utilizando tres como rezago. Y aquí estuve corriendo el modelo, que sería el modelo de bar con tres rezagos, que estaré proveyendo cuáles son los resultados a nivel de la R cuadrado, el p-value y cuáles son los términos o los residuos que me está dando el modelo para predecir las variables. Y por último, voy a estar trabajando con el modelo de bar que captura la volatilidad de las variables y ajusta la heteroelasticidad condicional. El resultado permite determinar dinámicas de volatilidad que puedan ayudar a interpretar mejor eventos económicos importantes dentro del comercio internacional, ya sea los picos o los valles o las correlaciones cambiantes. Entonces, estos son algunos de los resultados del modelo. En este caso, tengo los parámetros, cómo que se fluctúan a través del índice de tiempo y los periodos que estaría trabajando con el modelo. Por, y por último, sería la prueba de impulso y respuesta. Bueno, mano mía, que tengo aquí el perrito. Pues por último, estaría trabajando con la prueba de impulso y respuesta, que es para medir o entender cómo un choque de una variable, por ejemplo, un aumento inesperado en el índice de precios de la manufactura puede afectar a otras variables como las exportaciones reales, el índice de precios en la actividad económica o las tarifas a largo plazo. En este caso, estuve corriendo lo que son las exportaciones reales a un periodo de, ¿verdad? 11 periodos y estaría compartiendo resultados en el paper. También este modelo me permite saber, como estoy trabajando con un indicador o un periodo de tiempo del 2006 al 2025, puedo determinar algunos periodos como el del 2006 al 2007, que es la precrisis financiera mundial, o el del 2008 al 2010, que es la crisis financiera y la recesión, o el 2017 al 2019, que es el periodo post-huracán María, o por último el del 20 al 2022, que es la pandemia del COVID-19. Y esto me permite el modelo, ¿verdad? Que cómo se recuperaron las exportaciones en diferentes tiempos y espacios y calculando lo que serían las tendencias de las variables. Dentro de la revisión de literatura, los modelos que estoy ya utilizando es dentro de la aplicación el comercio internacional para una economía abierta como la de Puerto Rico. El modelo de autocreación vectorial ha sido aplicado en estudios sobre las relaciones entre exportaciones e importaciones con el Producto Interno Bruto, impacto de choques externos en las economías tanto abiertas como dependientes, ya sea Granger en el 1969, Christopher Singh en el 1980 o Robert igual en el 1980. En el caso de Puerto Rico, el profesor Carlos Rodríguez hizo una evaluación en el 2002 que utiliza un modelo oval como el que escogió para este paper, pero en este caso él escogió las variables tasa de interés, precios, los precios y la producción real y la oferta monetaria. Algunas de las referencias serían las investigaciones que he estado leyendo en los últimos días, como la de Toledo, la de Ramos y la de Granger, que fue la investigación que hizo en el 1969. Y hasta aquí sería como tal la presentación.
Very good. I see how you made this economics paper into a international business paper by focusing on exports. I do need much more literature though from international business. This is all economic journals. I need more. I don't know how to explain this another way. I mean, this is international business. You have to start now in making the switch. So obviously you've done a lot of the analysis and you have the knowledge to do the analysis, but I need you to do the body of literature and position your work in the international business literature. I need to see where you would publish this paper in an international business journal. Which journal? Where would you pick? And which conferences would you attend? By thinking about the journal and thinking about the conference, it helps you realize if validate that your paper is appropriate for this, the project. The project is to produce a new knowledge, create new knowledge, something that has not been published before in the area of international business. So I mean, I see what you're doing, and I see it's exports in Puerto Rico, and it's interesting, but I don't know what else to say. I did ask you to do that also with the literature review. I'm going to see what literature. Like I saw the papers that you have there, but most of them are economic papers. Victor.
Sí, hasta ahora todos son de Economic Paper y muy pocos han sido de International
Yeah,
Business.
I need international business. I need it to be international business. I don't know how you're going to spin it, but I mean, you've done a lot of analysis. You know how to do the analysis. I need you to focus on also not just the analysis. The analysis is part, yes, but it's really about making it a topic that's interesting to the international business discipline. So I think it's there. I think you can do it. You have to find that, where is it that this would fall if it's I don't know, because I don't know the literature. That's what I hope for you to fix for me or identify for me. Anyway, anybody else have comments? Positive comments?
I think his econometric models and the quantitative analysis was super solid, and he obviously has a really good grasp of it. So that's and Victor, I think we all need your help. Be our mentors.
To do the analysis? Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
I'm gonna call you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. He knows the model, the VAR model, and there's something there, but I need him to, yeah, position that in the literature for international business. Who else published that? Yeah, I don't know if you need help with the search strategy or you're gonna have to let me know. We were supposed to meet once, but I think we're gonna need a meeting, Victor. Anybody else have comments? Okay, well, I'm in terms of, so why don't I put Victor with George and Carlos and you guys can be a powerhouse of econometric modeling. But you guys you have to be you know, good buddies, you have to be a good peer group that you're positively critical of each other's work so you can improve. All right. So I'm gonna put Victor with George and Carlos, and maybe we'll rotate rotate the critique. So everybody critiques somebody in that group of three. Is that all right, you guys? I mean, I don't think you have a choice. I have to give you. I'm handing
I,
Victor.
I I would like to have Victor as a reviewer as well.
Okay. All right. So you guys should get together and after tonight, like work on your submitting everything. So I want to see what you've got for me. Um, and it'll be easier for me to, sorry. It'll be easier for me to critique as well when I have everything. Okay. So this week, just work on your critique of each other for next week. And next week, I'm going to talk about um, models. We're going to talk about the different models. And I'll be giving you feedback about what you're submitting tonight. All right. So with that, I'm going to let you go. If nobody has questions for me, if anybody needs help with data downloads or data cleaning, let me know. I can meet you with you this week. Otherwise, good night, guys. Good luck.
Thank you guys. Thank
Bye.
you,
Good night.
Professor.
Thank you.